Okay. I think we're live here. Welcome, everyone, to the Wizard of Radical Self Respect. As you can see, I have a guest named Meli. She helps people to develop self love and acceptance. And I'm very interested to get her insights on a bunch of different things. But just even getting self love and acceptance, I'd love to hear, Meli. How do you do that? What's the beginning process of doing that for someone?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. Hello, everyone. And it is funny that you asked me that question because I am actually working on my list, my step by step. And I believe the first step into loving yourself is accepting truly who you are, accepting everything about yourself, everything about your physical, your spiritual, emotional, and that also comes with your surroundings, who you're surrounding yourself with at work, personal life. So, yes, it's funny how you.
Okay. Now, how do you get people to accept things about themselves that they don't like? Because I think everyone has maybe some things that they're not the most satisfied with, but how do you get them to get to a place of acceptance with it and self love?
Well, like I said, it takes multiple steps. So it comes with the acceptance. It's taking responsibility, also observing everything, like how you're acting, what you're thinking, realization, allowing things to flow within your life, and continue learning. So it really depends on the person. Not everybody has the same process. In my
Sure.
case, in the way that I just mentioned them, that's how I learn about self love. That's how I started loving myself a lot more, and I continue to. It's something that never ends.
I agree with that. I know my big thing is affirmations. I write down things every single day. Now, I maybe do it to my own detriment because I'm pretty rigid with it, where I don't feel right unless I do my little routine in the morning. But I think the power of mindset and neuroplasticity, whatever we hear consistently, whatever we tell ourselves, however we talk to ourselves, is humongous. And when you get to a place with that, and you hear it when someone has a lack of acceptance with something, or they talk badly about themselves, it gives me a shudder. I'm like, oh, I couldn't even imagine like talking that way about myself because it's so powerful how we talk to ourselves and what we think about ourselves. So powerful.
That is true. And that's the first thing. See, accept it. You accept who you are. So, in order for you to do that, at first with myself, that happened that I was not saying good things about me. So, I had to accept myself before I move on to the next step. And you know what?
Mm,
Next time, if you hear someone criticizing themselves, you get close to them and give them a compliment or
I agree with that.
compliment. If you don't feel like you can go and approach them right away, just think of a compliment for them so they can receive it. Even if it's not physical, they will feel it as well.
Okay. Well, I do like trying to make people feel better about themselves and helping them to be a version of themselves that is the most comfortable. Helping, I think Jim Carrey has said that before. Like, you know, Jim Carrey, he said that when people are around him, that people just present the best version of themselves. And I
Mhm.
think it's a cool kind of attitude to have. It's like, hey, be a way so that people want to be the best version of themselves around you, whatever that is for them.
That is true. I'm sorry. I have company. Very special company.
Company.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, I got another question for you. So I've never really been very good at accepting flaws. I've always chosen the route of improving and self improvement. So, how do you square those two away? Because sometimes I think to myself, maybe I have less self acceptance and I really just try to improve so I don't have to accept the flaws. Like, do you think maybe I'm bypassing something? Or what do you think about that?
I think you have to accept them too because things
Ah,
that is what makes you who you are right now. So it's
okay.
all accepting. So you have to accept the goods and the not so goods in order to continue learning. Because if you continue blocking them, it's just like a rug on the way. It's gonna continue appearing. until you fully accept it, and maybe try to come to where is it that it's coming from. What is that emotion, that feeling that it gives you when you think about the not so good, and
Mm.
try to find a way to heal that area in order to accept it and love it as part of you, because at the end, everything is part of ourselves.
Mm. Yeah, because I've never been as good at that. I've always been good at changing and improving and trying to do better. And it's the same thing I used to do with anxiety, for example. It's like, and I had pretty severe anxiety. People wouldn't know it now, but it's because I take a lot of supplements and things where I was able to convert that energy, right? But sometimes I think maybe I should have just accepted some of that anxiety, but I don't know. It's hard. It's one of those things that even I wrestle with a little bit.
Yes, no, I mean, it's all part of the process, all of them.
So here's another thing I'd like to talk about with you. We should tell the audience how you found me to begin with.
Yes, I am a big fan of yours. So this means a lot to me. You have been a wonderful process of my self-love. And I was not in a very good relationship, in a very good marriage, where I actually believe everything that was said to me from my then husband. I believe everything. And again, that has to do with self love, because when you don't love yourself, you believe what others tell you who you are. So I found you on TikTok, and your messages, they just came to me. They found me. I was not looking,
Ah,
because I didn't know you were talking about narcissists, and I didn't know what that was. So I just started listening to your videos. You continue to show up on my feed. So, okay, it's like I have to listen to this man, and so I did. And then I continue to follow you, and I believe I asked you if you can follow me so we could like have more conversations.
right,
And
right.
tell you, like, first of all, thank you for allowing me to realize about self-love, recognize I'm sorry recognize those aspects of self-love through someone else, because unfortunately I had to find out about love through a narcissist relationship, and it was hard. But at least I knew that I was not alone, that there were a lot of people out there going through the same thing, and that everything is possible to heal. And
I
now
got you.
we're here. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes. I think that's the one thing about a relationship with a narcissistic person. I think if we're doing it correctly, we use it as an opportunity to take a look at our side and to think, okay, yeah, we were victimized perhaps by another person, but there's still things that we could probably do better too. And I know it's something I wouldn't want to have happen again, but it was good for me. It was good for me because it forced me to take a look. And you must have been blessed to see my face so often on TikTok's algorithm. And here's the thing, I hated TikTok for the longest time. I refused to go on it. And I was like, that's stupid TikTok. Makes your IQ lower. It's just silliness. And then finally, for some reason, I decided to go on it. And it's honestly been life changing since I did. Because I started there and then went to Facebook, and my followings on both of those grew pretty quickly. And so I feel like there's a lesson there sometimes where if you do something maybe you thought wasn't going to be good and you push through it sometimes, you can be things can happen that you had no idea could happen, and it can kind of open up new paths. So and I think you relate to that mindset a lot too, and I see it in you. Like you do that, and you're always wanting to challenge yourself and look at things differently. Hello there.
My handsome company here. And yes, I agree. But again, all of that process had to do a lot with you as well.
Sure, sure. So, how long has it been for you since your narcissistic relationship?
I don't know. I think I lost track of time. But I mean, the process, I believe I got married 2019. However,
Okay.
he was my best friend. He was my best friend since childhood. So I thought I knew him, and I actually fell in love through the mind. That's what I love about men. I love a man I can learn from. And he is a very wise man. If you should know, a lot of narcissists are very intelligent because they know about a lot of,
Cerebral.
well, that's he's the only one that I've met so far, so I think all of them are the same just because I've heard different cases. Um and it seems like they know a lot, or either they imitate who you are and learn those topics in order to involve you in it. So
I see.
2019, but again, he was my best friend, and I don't know at what point I lost track of myself and I started doubting myself. And I don't remember either when I started like healing. I don't remember the healing process. I do remember June 1st of 2022, which was last year. That's the day that I said no more, and that's it. I am not
Mm.
here to anybody else but myself. And whatever feels good with me, as long as I'm not harming anybody, that's what I went for. So ever since, a lot of new things have coming and happening.
I think it'd be good to go over how that he made you second guess yourself and not believe in yourself. What did that look like? Because I think recognizing it and being able to point out the behaviors it did, I think would help a lot of women and men who are in a similar situation too. So maybe he would gaslight you or flip the script on you whenever you had an idea. He would do Darvo, maybe, like defend, accuse, reverse victim and offender. So, can you talk a little bit about how he made you lose belief in yourself a little bit?
Yes, like I said, I don't really remember. I think that's a thing that I've already loved and let go of. So
Okay.
I have to think so much of the negative side. However, I do remember him constantly saying that I was bad at everything. I was a bad mother. I was wrong. I didn't know, or things like that. What other thing? Right now that you mentioned, when you were mentioning them, a couple came to mind. But like I said, it's hard. Oh yes, I remember. So for example, if we will go somewhere where there will be more men present, somehow he will say that all the men were flirting with me and that I was flirting back just by being me, which I never truly understood.
Mm,
That's one thing that I started doubting myself. I have this personality that might be taken for a flirty personality. However, it's me. I love people. I love life. I love everything. And
good.
I've pretty have seen it just like speaking with me for the past few months. I love life. So
Well, you do have a glow about you. You have a glow and a feminine energy about you that seems a little less common in America these days. But I'm going to get back to that in a minute too. But do you think his accusations of you flirting were really confessions of what he was doing himself?
none of the moment because I was comfortable with what I was doing. I knew that what I was doing was okay. I was not disrespecting him. However, through his eyes, I did feel that need of respecting him. Of okay,
Mm,
that makes me comfortable. I'm gonna try not to be so social, or I will try to just like keep it very professional or very simple. So I did try because I am Mexican, so I was raised that way that we have to um, please the man. It's all about the man and praising the man. And we forget about what you said, the feminine energy and who we are.
mm. I think a lot of predatory type people and manipulators, they love a woman that was set up to praise the man. I think there are some people that they might try to take advantage of that, no doubt. And they probably look for people that are in that space So they kind of see them as an easy mark. So I guess you've had to, do you think you were in a trauma bond with him at the time? And I know one of the reasons why you may forget is because it's a trauma filled experience a lot of times. And there's a lot of kind of crazy making, and things can be confusing where your memory gets a little hazy with it. So I've heard that before too. It makes sense to me.
Interesting. I feel like the way that I see it, it's like it's not part of my reality. So I need to remember that. And I feel like the more I talk about it or think about it, the more I bring it back into my present life. That's why I like to probably block it or forget about it. But that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's helpful just to recognize the behavior patterns and the kinds of things they did, just so we know in the future if those kinds of things come up again. We know, oh, I see that. That reminds me of this. That's a big red flag. I gotta watch out for this here. And I think that's where looking at the past can be useful. But there's a Russian saying, if you dwell on the past, you lose an eye. But if you forget the past, you lose both eyes. And I said, yeah, that's right, because you don't want to dwell on it, but you also don't want to forget it either, because you want to take the lessons from it and learn from it. But then once you've learned from it, it's like, yeah, moving forward is the way.
That is true. I like that. I like that saying.
Yeah. So you grew up in Mexico, and the audience doesn't know, but you're very well traveled. You've lived all over the world.
I love culture. I love languages. I love people. And I'm not a big fan of, not that I'm a big fan, it's maybe I'm not used to this, like the social media type of social. I like the base learning about where they live, the food. Who doesn't love food? So
So
yes,
that's what's fascinating to me is what was it like in Mexico compared to here, compared to America?
I'll see. Why are we comparing? No,
Because I think that's the fascinating part to get the to see what's different and what's the same. Because I know you've told me before you think America is their culture is a little lacking in comparison to other places. And I think maybe examining that and talking through that a little bit, I think could shine a light on some Americans and they could say, you know what? Meli's right. She's right about this. This is something maybe that we should take note of and try to do differently.
hi.
Hey there.
It's not about being right or wrong. I do think that America or the United States doesn't have like a culture of itself or of its own, but that's also because there are so many cultures here in one that we don't have to adapt to on a specific one. We get to enjoy. If we don't have the time or the pleasure to go out and explore the world, we have it all in here. So that's the beauty of it. We have everything. You want Thai, you want a Chinese, Mexican, you will find it all. So it is a lot different. In Mexico, I was used to eating with my family. Every time for lunch, we will eat lunch at 2 o'clock, and the entire family will get together to eat, enjoy that time as family, and then the parents will return to work. So that's one of the things I like to maintain, at least here in the United States, with my family.
I know that's certainly pretty much unheard of here.
One sec.
I'm there she goes. I know in America. Are you back already? You good?
Yes.
Okay. So I know in America, people wouldn't dream of that. The only people who could really do that a lot of times are the people who are in charge. If they're in charge, sure, they can go home for lunch and whatever, but it's certainly not the norm. It's not the norm. So you also talked about how the culture was to praise men. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that too, because I don't feel like that's the culture in America at all, to praise men, at least at this moment. So could expand on that a little bit.
Correct. Well, a lot of things have changed. I don't know if this is still true, but at least when I grew up, when I was growing up in Mexico, it was all about the men. I mean, women were not seeing okay if they were like playing, I don't know, so many sports or things like that. It was more about the men, and the female mentality was to, the main goal was to get married and have children and marry a good man that will have a good job. So we wouldn't even talk about the emotions or the part of making you feel good as a person. It was more of looking good for the society, having a
So image oriented in a way.
mm-hmm.
Interesting. So that's one. I guess that's kind of like a difference there too. Do I guess do they fight a lot in Mexico about politics and political things? Is there a difference between that and here? Because I know here the sides are all wild about things. It's very divided. But is it that way in Mexico too?
To be honest, I've never paid attention to that. Not even. Yes, no. Like I said, I've always been all about loving life, so I've always seen like the good things about everything, and whatever was not bringing me peace, I would just ignore it. So I
Yeah,
am.
I can see that. Now, where else have you lived? You lived in Mexico. You live in
Yeah,
America now. Where else have you gone?
Europe, and I want to go back. But yes, Europe, it is very beautiful, and also traveling. We've been to New Zealand. That's one of the most beautiful cultures that I've seen. And Australia, but I believe New Zealand, that's one of my favorites. They are very,
What was it about New Zealand that was so cool?
they're very united. New Zealand itself, it's a family. It's not divided. Everyone is very welcoming. It's a beautiful like vibration when you get there. It's like I'm home, but it has nothing to do with the space. It has with the way it makes you feel as at home.
Okay. I guess there's not as much of that in America, I would say. But what was your favorite place to live? Was it New Zealand or is it somewhere else?
I've never lived in New Zealand, but I would love
Oh,
to.
you
I
haven't lived there. Okay.
have only been there. I've only visited, and it has impacted me a lot. The sky, it's beautiful. I love the outdoors, so that's a lot to do. I love the cold weather a lot more. So everything is
Cold weather?
yes. You want to trade homes?
Oh, no. You're crazy. If I would have known you'd like the cold weather better than the warm, I never would have invited you.
Well, too late.
Oh. I have a joke where I say people who prefer the winter to the summer are psychopaths. I've said that before. I was like, you better watch out for them. They might have bodies in their basement. Anyone who says a cold, chilly day at 30 degrees is better than a nice, warm, sunny 80-degree day by the beach,
I
I make
mean,
a good case for it, don't I?
they're both good, but when you leave there, it's cold. Like you can always cover it when it's too hot. How do you deal with that? Don't tell
I've
me
heard that crazy logic before, and I've
no.
never bought it. They say, oh, you could always put more on, but you can't take enough off in the summertime. It's like,
True.
no, I've never bought it. I never bought that.
Especially when it's humid. And here where I live, it doesn't get humid, so that's good, but still too hot. I live in so yes.
I would think growing up in Mexico, you would like the warm and be used to it.
It's not the same type of warm as I've experienced, at least here in Las Vegas. This is a different type of heat. So I don't
Dry heat there.
yes, very dry. So I don't quite appreciate it. It is what it is, but not my favorite type of the time of the year.
Mm. So, what do you think about Las Vegas? I've actually never been there, so I'm not sure.
It's beautiful. I love it. I love the people and how things happen. I actually was living in California, and I happened to come to Las Vegas to visit one of my cousins. She bought a new home here in Vegas, so we were packing. We were excited about the new home, and we were just celebrating. And she's like, "Oh, you should buy a home here." And I said, "Yeah." So I called her agent, and within a month, we found the home we close the deal. It was meant to be. Here I am.
It's pretty quick.
Yes, things don't happen like that. So
Now it's good to have that kind of flexibility. How do you have all this flexibility? How do you do it?
you just flow. That's it. It's like
I guess.
this you what has been all about since the beginning, just flowing. And
Okay.
some of the most exciting and beautiful experiences.
Hmm. Well, you know what I think stops the flow for a lot of people in America is their bills. They get caught up on these bills and their debt, and then it really stops the flow. Where if you do things like go to college and then you have student loan debt, it's like there is no escaping student loan debt. It stops the flow a little bit. And then people get car notes or they'll get mortgages or credit card debt, whatever. America's an expensive place. But I think it's great that you're able to do all those things. I think it's certainly something that I would strive to try to be more like, that having more of that flow and just kind of going with things, because I can be pretty rigid myself. But another thing the audience might be surprised about you is that you really try to work on your femininity and you think you're not feminine enough, even, which is shocking to me to hear you say that. But maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
A lot has changed since we talked about that. Now I have a different perspective. But first, I want to go back to what you said.
Okay.
You have the answer. You actually have given me the answer of monetary, the bills, in the beginning of this interview. You say you like affirmations. So I
Right.
do believe that everything is an affirmation. Flowing and allowing things to flow are part of, money can be part of that too. So if you allow money to come to you and not be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm spending this much or things like that, just being one with money, you start seeing things differently. I mean, I have a family of my own that I have to take care of. I need to think about work and everything, but I allow things to flow because I know everything will be at the right place. So, affirmations with money, give them a try. They'll work.
Yeah, I like them. I've done some of them, and they've worked. Not to the extent I would have liked them to work yet, but they certainly work. And I do think it's always interesting how when you really have a firm belief that things are going to work out and things are going to go your way, that it does seem to go that way. And even when there are hiccups and bumps in the road, you seem better able to handle them, in my experience.
It's true. It's true. And now going back, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say how things have changed for you since the talk we had about femininity, masculinity.
Yes. So I have a different perspective now. Someone's tired. Very tired. But I've seen things different. I don't think we have to connect with anything before. Back when we talked about it, I thought that I had to reconnect with my feminine energy because I have been a lot more masculine. I have been taking care of myself. Like I open up my children's door when they get in the car and things like that I would like from a man to me, just because I deserve them and I know what I can bring into a relationship when it comes to that. But I don't think I need to connect with my feminine energy anymore because it is within me. I am feminine energy. I am masculine energy. It's just reconnecting with it, accepting who I am. I know we were talking about me wearing more makeup. It's not me. This is all the makeup I like to do. Eyelashes, color a day. That's it. So it's just accepting who you are and accepting that being feminine is within you. It's just a different way of expressing it. And you can admire, I told you before, I like to admire other women. But at the end, that's not me. So I have to embrace to this one. And it is within me. It's me.
And I know, like I told you before, that I would never say you are more on the masculine side. You maybe have to do quote unquote masculine things because you're a single mother and you have to like take care of things. You got to take care of bills. You got to take care of getting stuff done and doing chores and all that kind of good stuff. So they are kind of masculine, but your essence, though, and your energy is what's not really masculine at all. To me, it's much more feminine. And I think there's this misconception in America that there are people, a lot of the women, and I've heard people fight about this a lot, but they say it's like they don't know how to be feminine, but also assertive. Like there's a way to be feminine and a little softer, but also assertive, but also being able to put your foot down. And I think a lot of them don't see that. They think, no, you got to really just be really disagreeable, stern, very dominant, assertive, yes queen energy, as they would call it. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. I think some of them think, and this is one of the staples of it, they think every hill is a hill to die on. But it's like not every hill is a hill to die on. And it's not about being assertive. Sometimes it's about how you say things, how you say it. How is it coming across? And that's the big difference to me between masculine and feminine. It's like when someone's like really sharp and rigid and there's like a sharp tone in their voice all the time and they have to disagree with everything and they can't ever admit they're wrong or they can't ever just say, okay, I'll let this one go. To me, that combativeness, that's the more masculine thing. That it's not necessarily good when a man does it either. Like you got to know every hill is not a hill to die on. Not every hill will be something you got to go down with the ship with. It's like, no, there are some things. Yes, certainly put your foot down. Certainly don't be a pushover with, but it's not everything. It's not everything, but a lot of it's just how we say things. And the way you say things, there certainly is a feminine essence with it. There certainly is like a softness in it that naturally puts at ease people that are more in their masculine. It's just like refreshing. It's like, okay. And you could be assertive and you can have boundaries and it's not going to come off in that like sharp, combative way, if that makes sense.
Yes, and energies is not my strongest. It's something that I'm still learning about. But for example, one of the things that I can say that I was very masculine in our relationship, I will make the plans. I will be deciding what to eat. And honestly, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to surrender. I want my man to make the plans for me, to surprise me.
That's a big part of it. I think it takes courage. It takes courage to really lean into your feminine with a man. Because a lot of times I think they really don't trust the man and they don't trust him to like lead and to do the right things and to handle stuff. That's ultimately what it comes down to. They don't trust the guy to do that. And maybe it stems from their father, or maybe it stems from the culture and how they portray guys on TV and the movies. There's all sorts of guys now. The dads, for example, they're portrayed as stumbling buffoons, like 9 times out of 10. Like you look at Homer Simpson from The Simpsons, or you look at other guys. It's like, it just doesn't, they don't show men very often anymore taking charge, leading, and being competent and knowing what they're doing. It's very rare now. And I think men are raised differently now too. Where men, they're not taught to be that way anymore. They're not told to be the strong, independent man, to be able to make decisions and lead and be assertive. But I think women are taught to be that way now. Women are more so taught, yes, make sure you're independent. You don't ever want to rely on a man. You never want to get in a position where you're trapped with a man. You handle things. Be the strong, independent woman. Handle stuff. Take the lead. But like that's what they're taught. It just doesn't seem like that's what men are taught anymore. And it starts with how they're raised. Starts with when they're boys. But what do you think? Do you think I'm accurate with that, or do you see that too?
I do see it. However, I don't think that it's something that you learn outside. It's something that you learn at the exact time that you're ready to learn for it and on your own. At least that happened to me. Um, and you said that key word, trust. And that's exactly what I want. I do want to trust my man. And I think that's the best you can give to a man, because once you trust him to take the decisions, and in my case, for me and my family, I mean, that's everything. That's how
Right.
much love and respect and admiration I have towards you. Yeah, I think, and that has a lot to do with faith. It's like you're breathing. That's how you know what faith is, because you know that your breath is gonna be there until the very last day of you on earth. So it's the same type of faith that I want to give to, in this case, my men. And that's something that you find within yourself. Like, even though I was taught something else, it never felt right to me, not even as a little girl. Now I know. And yes, it has a lot to do with who you grow up with. In my case, my mom was the masculine side. I didn't grow up with my dad. So I grew up to be very masculine, not looking, but and I think that's what it's feminine now, that we're feminine, learning how to do everything. And you don't need nobody. I don't need them, but I want them. It's like opening a jar. Even if it's too hard, I might be able to open it, but I might want my man to do it for me. I want to feel
Mm.
support and things like that. So it's something that you connect with, at the exact moment that you're ready for it. Hold on, puppy.
Yeah, I never would have guessed you had a more masculine mother. I would never have guessed that.
Well, yes, I did.
And I think also these days, it does. I mean, it does take courage to trust a man. A lot of times, women have been burned a lot, and so they lose the trust in a man, and they think, and they bring back all of their traumas from the past, and they bring it into the future. So if they had guys that have breached their trust and have cheated, they think the guys in the present and the future will also do the same. But it's like that expression, when you don't heal from who cut you, you bleed on those who didn't. It's kind of like that. But and I think there's this other thing now where some women look down on being feminine. They look down, they see it as, I think some of them think it's synonymous with weakness almost. Where the way I hear some women who are older talk about it is, oh, guys only like younger feminine women because they're more gullible, or they're more manipulatable, or they're more easily led somewhere. And it's like, why are they associating like femininity with all of those things? Where they think, oh, you can't have a thought of your own. You can't be intelligent. It's like, no, it's not true at all. You can be feminine and intelligent. You can be feminine and have thoughts of your own and have your own opinions. But why is it being tossed together with all these negative sentiments? I don't quite get it, but I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's helpful at all, because you can be feminine and all of these things. It's not like just, oh, you're going to be the gullible, brain dead ditzy girl. It's like, no, that's not what being feminine is. And so they associate it with that. And I just don't think it's very helpful. I don't think it's helpful at all towards the dating dynamics, especially here in America.
I mean, it's everywhere, but it all comes back to loving yourself. Because if you
It
don't love
does.
your, you don't know who you are, then you're gonna fall for what you hear outside. And once you know who you are and you love yourself, you take yourself on a date, go to the movies by yourself, go to the bar and have a drink. You don't need to go and look for a man, because the right man will come and find you. The man chases, the women flows, and follows.
This is true. This is true. But I think there is more, like, for example, for women, especially if a woman's pretty, men will come around, right? She can afford to be a little more passive because it's just the natural order of things that a man will more than likely pursue a woman, right? And I think sometimes what we see happen is as a woman gets older, sometimes they can be bitter. They get bitter and annoyed at how their past dating experiences went. But for a man, though, I think men do have to accomplish, men do have to do action and to be assertive and learn how to lead and to get shit done. I think that is important for a man. And like, if a man doesn't try, if a man doesn't put himself out there, unless he's a social media celebrity or has some sort of status where he's going to be seen in his everyday life by women, men do have to take action steps to try to date. It's like if you don't ask women out and do things, it's not going to happen unless you do it, unless you ask. Usually it's not going to be the woman asking them. They might throw out the hints, right? Women will throw out hints and make it obvious that they want a guy to do something. But some guys can be pretty dense with it and not pick up on what the woman thinks is obvious signals, right? Like, have you ever had that happen before where you're giving these obvious signals to a guy and the guy just doesn't seem to pick up on it and it's just over his head?
Oh yes, all the time.
All the time.
Oh yes, it's very common, but I am also very straightforward with what I like. So I say things as they are. I don't, but when you don't know the person, uh,
Right.
yes, women use body language a lot. And I think it's beautiful. It's part of being feminine. Like we have it within us and we probably never pay attention, but you gotta put your lipstick on, work on your hair, make sure it looks good, throw a smile or two. So yes, we use a lot of the body language, like I said. So it does happen. And with men, from what I've learned is that men have to be told exactly how we want things, because if not, men don't truly get it. We have to be very specific. But at the same time, I think that goes back to me being feminine. I don't want to be um, raising another child. I don't want to be telling him what to do. So again, it comes back to loving yourself and knowing who you are. And after you embrace it, you just know that the right man will be there. It's already there looking for you. And another thing that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that men, when they know, they know. They know this is the one and I will do anything for her to be with me. Like, am I
I will
right? Is that
say a man, if he's really into a woman, it's usually a cut and dry thing where it's like you can tell, okay, this is probably a woman that I would take seriously. Because men would put women into categories usually. It's like the one they're not attracted to at all, then a category of, well, maybe I would sleep with this woman, but then I wouldn't do anything further. And some may say that's childish, perhaps. But it is just, I think masculine people will maybe do that. And then there's the one where they would want to be serious about someone, right? And those are the categories. And if guys are being honest, that's just the categories that people get that they put people in. But I think you personify the fact that it's not as much about makeup, it's not as much about your hair, it's more about energy and your persona. That's what makes it feminine. It's not about just the superficial layer, because there's a lot of women I would call quote unquote masculine that put all sorts of lipstick, all sorts of makeup, do up their hair, wear all these skirts and high heels, dressed to the nines. But when you speak to them, it's very harsh, and they're just like very. There's something going on there. But that shows me it's not just about the look of it. It's more about the energy. It's more about how they communicate. That's what's the feminine part to me.
I think it's everything, like how you present yourself physically as well. Because at the end, I believe that we're all characters. If you see me,
Characters.
yes, we're all characters of life. So we choose who
Okay.
we. So if I present myself here like looking all messy or dirty, you wouldn't be taking me seriously either. And it goes back to loving yourself. I wouldn't be taking myself seriously if I show myself like that. I can still be myself like right now, but I want to feel what I see. So before I see you, look at myself. Am I feeling this? Yes. Do you copy what I'm saying? Where I'm
I
going?
get what you're saying. Well, I know Oscar Wilde said that the world is like a stage, but the play is badly cast, kind of thing.
Interesting. First time
Have
I
you
heard
ever
that.
heard that?
No.
And the other one that I always think of is from the movie American Beauty. Buddy, the real estate king, says, in order to be successful, one must present to the world an image of success at all times. And I was like, okay, I could see it. I mean, how we present ourselves, how we look, how we take care of our bodies, how we dress, it does communicate how we feel about ourselves a little bit. And
Hmm.
again, I don't think it's much about the makeup, but it's like, did you put effort in? Did you care about how you look? It does communicate to the world. It's the first thing people see. It's the first impression. It's like, okay, this is how she puts herself together. Or this is how he puts himself together. This is probably how he feels about himself. Does he take himself seriously? Does he think he's going places in life? Or is he like slipshod and all haggard, doesn't take care of his physical appearance? They both communicate things. We've got to be careful what we're communicating out there.
Hmm.
But I also think a lot of guys, they just give up. A lot of guys have given up on the dating market and they let it show. They let it show in how they present themselves to the world.
It goes back to loving yourself. Men, especially. I believe that it has not been taught to men that it's okay to cry, that it's okay for them to be shown as weak. I have another visitor.
Oh, the puppy.
um, so
Well, I encourage men to be vulnerable with other men, is what I normally encourage.
I mean, yes, allow the has to come out. Just allowed it.
What
There's
come out?
um allowing love into your life. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel emotions, and most men are not that to think that way. So of course, they are. Most men might be only trying to target the woman that they think it's good for them for that specific moment that they're going through, not
Right.
really for the long run. And I think us as women, we think more of the long run than the short period of time, the actual like pleasure that we want. So
Well, they say women, they care about a man's future. They care about where a
uh,
man's going. Well, it's
yeah,
true. I mean, for
true.
how women look at the mating world, you got to think, okay, does this guy, does he have a future? Does he have something going for him? Or is he just like the bum? Now, there are younger women, they do seem to like the bums a lot if they have certain qualities going for them, right? If they can be attractive and tall and or just overall a dominant personality, they might not care that the guy may have nothing going on, especially when they're young. And you do see it a lot. You see it a lot with women that had kids when they were younger, for example. It does happen. It's just the way of the world sometimes. But then as women get older, then I think their tastes become refined and what their wants and desires are change too over time.
And that goes. You made me think of something that I spoke to a long time ago. That everything is a reflection of life, of our personal life. So you are what you are. Whatever you are attracting at the moment, that means that that's exactly who you are. So pay.
Ah,
It's part of loving yourself. You have to observe, like I mentioned earlier, observe your thoughts, the way that you're expressing yourself, observe your emotions, how you're feeling, and it's about recognizing them, accepting them. Okay, I'm angry, but I'm not gonna be mad at you just because I'm angry, and I want to be angry, and I want to embrace it, and then I let it go, and it's okay. So it has a lot to do with loving and accepting yourself. There's a saying, I think, that says something like, "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are." Not quite sure. I'm only here in Spanish, so I hope I said it correctly.
no, it's true. It's true.
So it is true. Everything is a reflection of ourselves, and whatever you are standing right now, that's exactly what you're gonna get back. It's just going to bounce back at you. So sometimes it's not that it's the right person, it's just not the right time for them.
Well,
They love your life, you met that person. However, I am not in that vibration at the moment. And we meet up in like 10 years later. That happens to be my happy ever after. It's perfect because we have to go through the process of loving ourselves and learning who we are in order to go back to exactly what we want and how we want it and who we want it with. Even if we don't put a face or a name behind the who we want, we have an idea how they are and who they are. And that's all that matters.
so you've made me think of two things here. The first one is, say there's a lot of people, like a lot of women have had a narcissistic ex, right? So they say you are what you attract. It's like, how do you square those things? Does that mean they were narcissistic? But what I think it really is that it's more like it's just the puzzle pieces fitting together of you're probably in like a codependent and weak boundary place, and you attract the reciprocal of that. And so it's like the puzzle pieces coming together. And so sometimes, though, people do have narcissistic fleas, and they do have some of the traits of a narcissistic person, like a parent, for example. And but when you're raised by one, you're often kind of groomed to be attracted to that into adulthood. And it takes a little bit of self-awareness to try to break that pattern. Now, the other thing you reminded me of was what Nipsey Hussle said. He said, if you look around you at your friends group and you're not inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. And I said, yeah, isn't that true? Right? So we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time around. People know this, but then they still don't really do something different with it. It's like, it's true. You become like the people you spend time with. Your traits will rub off on one another. And one of the big ways I would say to any person to try to help themselves is like level up your friend group. Like try to develop friends that are going somewhere in life, that are trying to improve themselves and are maybe where you want to be, or at least on the path of where you want to go.
Well, that's a tricky one. But you are completely right. But I do think um, that you have to take away the meaning of narcissist. Like remove that word. I'm sorry, not the meaning. Keep the meaning, remove that word from it. Because there are different aspects. And it's mainly within what's inside of you. Some things that have happened, like traumas from the childhood. In my case, I think it was I didn't grow up with a father, so I was looking for that father figure. I was looking for that man figure in my life. And I felt like I needed that love and devotion from a man that I could call my husband. That I grabbed into that idea and I was depending in a way from and expecting that masculine, what I thought it was a masculine energy to come into my life and tell me, don't put that on or dress like this or talk like that. But that's not what I wanted. Again, I was disconnected with who I was. So you don't have to be a narcissist in order to date one. Sometimes I believe not. Sometimes I believe they are great teachers in life. They are here to teach us a lot. In my case, he taught me self-love. So take away that and see within yourself what is it that who you are, even if you don't project it to the world, you still know within yourself what is it that you are looking for. And until you learn that lesson, you get to move on and learn and continue learning.
That part's true. I think the universe does put people into our lives that are similar until we learn the lesson we're supposed to learn. I think that's true. And it sounds like you wanted kind of like that kind of dominant, almost controlling aspect of a relationship back then, that masculine part. And there are a lot of women who do like that. They do like elements of it, right? They like it that better than its opposite, like the needy and approval seeking and guy who doesn't know what he's doing or where he's going and needs guidance and wants the woman to lead. Women do not like that a lot of times. So that makes sense. That certainly all makes sense to me. So I guess what are you working on in your life now? Now, I would imagine self-love and acceptance is a never-ending thing. But is there anything in particular you're working on now?
Oh, a lot of things. Oh, and I have to mention one thing before. That's not being masculine. When you try to change someone else, that's not being masculine. When you try to be the dominant one, that's not being masculine. That's, and I think I shared that with you before a video. That's just a man, a wounded man from childhood.
I think a guy can be like a leader. What's the
Yes,
difference? And I think some people, so there's all these traditional masculine roles or traits, but they also have, there can be a toxic version of them too. Like being a good leader is good, but maybe being overly controlling or manipulative to be the leader, not so much, right? But the core of the trait is supposed to be just a good leader. Now, some people have defects though, and so they present in like maybe very controlling ways or very jealous and smothering ways. It just depends.
but those ways are not out of love. And again, self love.
Well, no, I'm not saying they are. I'm saying that those are the toxic ways, that
Yes,
the toxic way of a good traditional masculine trait.
yes, but it's still, it's hard to recognize them. And it comes back to knowing who you are in order to know what you want in return. It's like I once told one of my friends that I do expect my man to get on one knee and tell me that he loves me, just because I know that I will get on my knees when my husband gets home and he needs a foot massage or to wash his feet. Just because I know what I can bring, that's what I don't deserve, or I don't accept any less of what my worth and my values are. So it's all about accepting and not controlling. It's like I told you before, the example that I gave with my then husband, that he will get jealous of other men. If he truly loves me, he will accept me for who I am, and he will be proud, and he will know that I have no eyes for any other man by him. So it's just the men being wounded and not being secure of who they are, that they are jealous, that they want to be protective. I mean, women, I believe women are very beautiful, and you just want to keep them like in a crystal ball and show the world who they are. Like, be proud of, that's my woman right here, and I love her just for who she is. And she doesn't have to be captive into that relationship. That's the difference.
Well, I think those kinds of scenarios, they have to be taken individually. So I think a man who's secure in himself, yeah, he won't get too jealous with things. He won't try to be as controlling with things. However, there are certainly women that present red flags that you probably should pay attention to too. That's why I mean it should be on a case by case basis, because maybe some guys would say, I'm just going to be the secure guy. Meanwhile, there's like the woman's running around on him, taking advantage of his security. So it's like, yeah, case by case in a lot of these, I would say.
Yes and no, because again, I don't believe in cheating. I don't believe that people cheat on others. They cheat on themselves. So it's
Well,
the value that they have as a person to go and cheat on their partner. They're just doing that to themselves. They don't have no value or respect for themselves. So how are they gonna offer that to someone else? So it,
well, yeah, but it doesn't mean they still aren't cheating. Like they will still cheat. They're cheating on maybe themselves and their partner in that case. And I think infidelity right now is probably at one of the highest rates it's ever been, if it can be measurable. And I think a lot of it's because of social media. There's just so much more access to people that there's never been before. I mean, before, if you really wanted to cheat, if you're a man, if you're a woman, how do you do it? You have to go out somewhere. You got to either find someone at your job, at a bar, or at some sort of group or activity, right? And if you don't meet them in person, you didn't meet them. You didn't meet anyone that you didn't meet in person. And this was true until not that long ago, until maybe the 80s, even 70s, 80s, this was true. But since then, when the internet came, oh, now there's chat rooms. You can have like digital relationships with people that you never meet. And now with Facebook and TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat, there's all sorts of ways to meet people. And attention is just a couple clicks away, and all these dating apps too. But we haven't talked about that. What are your opinion on the dating apps?
I don't have any.
No, there's nothing
I
wrong with that.
no. I think I've opened one and I never used it, so it's still there. Hi.
I've deleted all the dating apps myself. I think it's just not a good way to meet somebody. I would rather meet someone in person or through what I do, right? Whether people meet me on Facebook or TikTok or YouTube because of what I do. That's, I think, a better way to meet people than forcing the dating interaction with someone. I've never been a fan of that. There are some guys who swear by it and who have success with it. Usually just a very traditionally attractive man, right? They can probably do well. They get most of the right swipes on an app like that. But that is something that I've never really it's never been that enjoyable to me. And it's usually just more of a waste of time. Like it turns into just a time kill. And I think to myself, this was time I could have spent better somewhere else, probably. Whether it's reading a book or just even doing something in my real life with a friend or developing new friendships, probably a better way to spend that time.
I guess. I just see it differently. I do believe in physical communication, but I also don't believe in chasing. I'm not gonna go and look for love. I'm not gonna look or chase love or see who I like because I'm just basing on looks. And like I said, I fall in love through the mind. So that's just me. It's always been.
Demisexual, they call that now.
I guess there's a name for that.
Well,
I
that's the
don't know.
term, demisexual, where you need to have an intellectual connection with someone in order to be
Yeah,
sexually attracted to them. You
correct.
do see that on people's. Yeah, you didn't heard that term?
No, it's the first time that I hear of it, or I might have
Yeah.
heard about it, but never really paid attention until now. But
Yeah, I mean demisexual. I mean, most women are more demisexual than not. I would say they need some sort of connection with the person.
yes, and I think the hard
Usually,
side of it, of us.
I don't like to be completely general about it because there are some women too who would just do a friends with benefits type thing or casual sex thing. But generally speaking, women want a little more than that, usually.
Yes, and let me just share this really quick because it's something that I've been hearing a lot. Um, I've heard somewhere on TikTok that it says that women is meant to be chased, but for that, women should have multiple options at once, and that's a little bit hard for me to comprehend. But at the same time, it does make sense. You do have to know what you want, not only based on knowing who you are, but also dating different men and knowing exactly what you like from each one of them. So, how come it is more open for men to date multiple women and women only be faithful and loyal to one? So, that's still a little debate within myself. Like I said, there's some with the idea that does resonate with me. However, when it comes to like emotionally, I believe I don't, at least I've never experienced it. So that's probably why it doesn't make me so comfortable to speak about it. But
Hmm.
I'll be able to learn more about it and
I
build
mean,
a relationship through friends with benefits or through a casual sex. I don't know. You never know how it will evolve.
I think it's not as much those things that the women like. It's more they may like the attention that a lot of guys give them, and they like the cumulative effect of all the attention. But it's not necessarily about the sex part. It's more like, no, I just like all of this admiration and attention that all of these guys are giving me. And I think that's a thing that's going to be a thing with younger girls growing up. It's like when they're in high school and onward, how are they going to handle, especially if they're pretty, being a mini celebrity, basically, if they're on some sort of social media? Like, how do you deal with that and keep things in proportion and without letting yourself become pretty egotistical or letting all of the attention get to your head. I think that's something that we're going to have to deal with at some point. I think we're seeing it already. We're seeing it on TikTok. And then you're seeing it with all the people that go on to OnlyFans, perhaps. It's like an extension of that. And I mean, how do you talk a woman out of, oh, when you're 18 to 24, if you're pretty enough, you can do this and make this much money. And then you can do what you want afterwards. Right? You can go to school or do whatever, but you could make a small fortune if you do this. What's the story we tell the future generations of kids of why not to do that? And I think I heard someone say this the other day. They said they don't think that OnlyFans girls should be shamed, but they also don't think they should be celebrated either. And I said, okay, I can agree with that. It's like not shamed, but also not celebrated. I see it all over my Facebook, where every other day I see a story of some woman that dropped out of being a nurse to go do OnlyFans and now makes 5 times as much money. Or a woman that was a lawyer and drops out to do OnlyFans and now makes more money than she did as a lawyer. Or the soccer mom that divorced her husband and then goes on OnlyFans and makes a fortune. It's like they're being celebrated is basically what's happening. But what do you think of that whole scenario? Should it be celebrated? Or should it just be, okay, maybe not shamed, but maybe not celebrated either? And you're a mother. What do you tell kids about this topic? Because they're gonna come across it at some point. And what's your story? What do you share?
You don't. You simply don't. First of all, I don't know what OnlyFans is. So if you explain a little
You
bit.
don't know?
No. I hear about it.
OnlyFans? You've never heard of it?
I have.
Oh,
but like
okay.
I
It's basically a place where women go on there, and anyone can go on there for that matter, but it's mostly women, and they can like get naked or upload their own porn to there, and they get like a monthly subscription where people can give them money monthly or pay per like photos or per videos or whatever. And some of the women who are very attractive, I mean, they can make a lot of money doing this. So it's something that you kind of got to have a good explanation to children growing up. It's like, oh yeah, this is maybe why you don't want to do this, or maybe you just don't talk about it. I don't know.
I don't know. Why would you want to deprive that from kids or teenagers?
Deprive that from kids?
Yes, I wouldn't. As a mother, I don't lead by saying, I lead by action. So if she sees me, if my daughter sees me dating multiple men, or she sees me doing these things, or then I cannot tell her not to do that. And after all, it's her body. And yourself, like, are those values that you have? At least for me, that's something that you also know when it comes to sexual topics. I have a different idea than most of us. So for me, this is just physical. I do believe that the sexual energy is the strongest of them all, and it's so sacred. You shouldn't be sharing it with just anybody. That's also the easiest way to steal or to give away your energy. So for me, that's a lot deeper. It's not just the looks. And if a young lady wants to do it, go for it. You can only tell them so much. They're gonna end up doing whatever they want. So I think just guiding them into the values. Is that really what you think of yourself? Is that really, let's say, $1 million? Is that the value? Is that all the value that you give to yourself? Because that $1 million, how is it gonna last you? So it has a lot to do with loving yourself and knowing who you are and embracing it and showing it to the world. You don't need.
Yeah, I think that's the argument. Is not everyone deserves to see it, even for a price, perhaps. Right? Not everyone deserves that, and maybe that's the argument also for people to not sleep with as many people. It's like maybe not everyone deserves it. Maybe not everyone deserves to have that intimate part of you.
Correct. And that's the part that I do believe in friends with benefits. Maybe there is this connection with this one person. However, it's not built up yet. So maybe that's the way that I will say I'm more open into it.
Right.
However, it's not the ultimate goal that I want for myself. So it goes back to loving yourself, knowing values, knowing the respect and the admiration that you have for yourself. And that's the difference with a narcissist. A narcissist has no love for themselves. They have no respect. They only think they're always right. So it's a complete opposite. That's why I mentioned that I do believe that they are wounded men and women who are narcissists because they try to control everything based on what they think it's right, what feels best for them, and not
Yeah.
really.
I think it's like a spectrum.
Yes.
There's a spectrum of toxicity with it where I think most of us have wounds in some way. It's just a matter of how severe and then how they present themselves in adulthood. And I think some people do a better job than others at taking a look at their side of it and responding rather than reacting. A lot of them are unconscious. People who are really struggling, a lot of them are unconscious and they don't know how to take a step back. They don't know how to feel a stimulus and then respond to it rather than just blurting out the first thing that comes to their mind. Because when people do that, so often it's gaslighting, reversing the blame, or doing something like that. That's the unconscious people. That's often what they do.
True.
Well, Miss Meli, I think we could almost wrap up here in a minute. But what my friend Alina,
Hey there.
she's going to come on here too at some point. We'll see what she says. But she says, "Hi, Jared. Wow, interesting topic. So glad I caught you live." Well, one of these days, Alina, you're going to be on here too at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this guy. He said, "Just what I've always done, Hugo, showing myself up
That's
through
my.
loving my wife." And hmm? What did you say? You
That's
know
my.
him?
Yes.
Okay. That's probably why they're watching. Not just a D scenario. How do you know him?
That's my ex-husband.
Oh, it is? How did he
Yeah.
find this so quickly?
I don't know.
How did he somehow stumble across how this all goes? Let's see what Alina has to say. Well, yeah, we are wrapping up here a little bit. We've already been in an hour. Unless, Alina, there's any other questions you want to ask us here. Any questions? Can you see these messages or no?
No, I cannot.
So it's just me who can see them.
So yes.
Are you in good terms with your ex-husband there?
I am okay with myself. I love everything. Like I said, it was a beautiful lesson. I don't regret it.
Everything's a lesson, right? There's always something to learn from everything. And a meaning. Well, I used to say it's LMO. In everything that happens, there's something to learn, a meaning, and an opportunity. It's just a matter of what it is.
That is true.
I think even with Elena, your mindset and hers would intersect. You maybe wouldn't agree completely 100%. But let's see what she says. She's not married anymore, right? You're
No,
single, right?
that's correct.
Yeah, not married anymore. She was married one time?
Yes.
One time. Married one time, not married anymore. And your ex-husband says, "I'm always with my family. It doesn't matter where are we vibrating at. I love you." That's nice. That's cute. So what else? I don't know. Anything else you really wanted to speak about?
Just I encourage everyone to love themselves, know who you are, embrace it, and continue learning. There's always something to learn.
Absolutely. And I got to have some action items. I say doing the mindset thing, writing things down. Do you
I
want to be married again?
Yes.
She does. She's about marriage life, but she's also for the man finding her, and which is, yeah, I mean, that is generally how it would go. And yeah, the guy is like a hunter, right? The guy wants to
Yeah.
hunt and pursue and do those things. That
And
part's all true. So Alina, we see her, she listens to some of the content creators I listen to. I listen to everybody though. I pretty much listen to everyone from all the different spectrums. And that, because I'm a big believer that when you only listen to one subset of people, you're not getting the whole picture. And then your thinking gets a little bit narrowed. And I think
Mhm.
that happens in the political world a lot. People only listen to the people they agree with, and then their thinking becomes more and more narrow as time goes on. But I force myself to listen to everybody. And when I first started listening to everybody, it was uncomfortable at first. It was painful to hear all of these new ideas that I would disagree with. I was like, oh, it was like a shudder. But then I got used to it all. And now my thinking is in the middle with a lot of things. And I can talk to anyone about any number of things. But what I've learned is not everyone can talk to me. Some people, when you have a certain belief, they just can't talk to you. You upset their sensibilities so much, they just can't even hear what you say. They just shut down and say, nope, I can't listen to you. I'm like, hey, we're just talking here. I try to seek to understand rather than be understood.
That's true.
Let's see what Elena's missing. So many messages. So I agree, Jay. Can you see these as I put them up here
Yeah.
or no? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, they do. You know they do, Elena. But I think also some people do it to grift. They're grifting on a community to make money. You know, the big grift I see these days is an attractive woman telling men what they want to hear. Grift. You see that a lot in the dating world where they go on there and they just agree, yeah, women are awful, women are this, or you need to do this. And there's a lot of women who blew up doing that. And on one hand, I don't blame them. Like there's money to be made there. I would blame the guys. It's the guys that allow that kind of thing to happen. It's the guys that allow OnlyFans stuff to happen too, for that matter.
It's everything. I mean, women, that type of energy or connection or satisfaction, probably. Especially because women, we have not been taught how to discover ourselves when it comes to a sexual topic. It's been mainly more with men.
Well, the guys do. I mean, yeah, they do. The guys will. Well, that's my definition. Have I ever told you my definition of a simp? My definition of a simp is a man who disrespects himself for women. And that's why I'll always put it in a negative light. People have tried to co-opt that saying into it being a positive. Oh, I want my man to simp for me, a woman will say. It's like, no, you don't. No woman wants their man to disrespect themselves for her. And that's the simple boundary line. I think my definition should go right in the Urban Dictionary. Boom. Simp, a man who disrespects himself for women. It should go there. It's better than the Urban Dictionary definition now. Oh, it is a delusional cycle. Well, right now there's like a sexual marketplace war. Like there's the men versus women, the intersexual dynamics, and it's like it's an ugly war because in reality, in the real world, neither are usually that extreme in the real world. It's just entertainment. And when you force people to take a stand on some of these issues, it creates like a conflict. But if you shrink it down to actual relationships, individual relationships, the things I talk about just don't come up as much. It's like, yeah, you can learn from all things, but those kinds of scenarios just don't come up. And it's like, that's why it's just entertainment. It's entertainment, but entertainment that doesn't really help too many people a lot of times. Like, it's good to learn in the beginning, but then its usefulness comes to an end.
I mean, it's like everything. You're gonna continue. evolving into that topic and learning more. So,
Yeah, I mean, like when I was more hurt and wounded, I had certain beliefs that I've pulled the reins on back now, where I think I'm more calibrated now, more socially intelligent now, and I think my beliefs are more in the middle. Like I think there are things I hear other creators say that I agree with, but it also doesn't mean you got to shout it from the rooftops everywhere you go, like someone who has autism or something. And that's what it sounds like when they do it. It's like, look who are you talking to? But what happens is people have a financial grift. They have a financial incentive. So they bombard this messaging out there because it's their business. It's their money. And so that's the incentive system.
that's true.
Well, all right, miss. I guess that's about it for now. Anything else? You want people to be able to find you somewhere? Any like social media things they want you to follow you on or no?
Yes, I will send you all the information. Maybe we can add that to the link.
Sure.
Comment on.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. And thank you so much for having me. It has been a pleasure.
It's
It's
definitely a pleasure is mine, miss. Definitely.
I love your friendship. So thank you so much. Wonderful.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was great to have you on and great to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts with everyone here. So
Thank you.
have a good one. Over and out, everybody.
Bye.